Hi, everyone. My name's Tanya. I am going to be giving this talk remotely as Karen has indicated. And so without further ado, I will just share my screen. And there we go. So hopefully that's worked for you. So I'll just do it from the beginning. All right. So my name is Tanya Luce, and I'm the Biodiversity Projects Officer at Macedon Ranges Shire Council. And I've been in the role just for a few months, and I'm really enjoying it. And I really wish that I could be with you all today, not only to be able to deliver this talk in person, but also to hear what the other speakers have to say. Before I go any further, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you on Dja Dja Wurrung country over near Daylesford, and I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend my respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders who may be here watching this presentation today. So why nest boxes? Why do we even need nest boxes? Nest boxes are artificial hollows. Tree hollows are so important to our native wildlife that the loss of these hollows is listed as a key threatening process to biodiversity throughout Australia. And they are also listed, the loss of hollows is also listed as a threatening process under the Flora and Fauna Guarantee Act, which is the state legislation here in Victoria. So over 300 species use tree hollows for shelter, roosting and breeding. And so how do hollows form? In other countries, woodpeckers make hole cavities, but we don't have woodpeckers here in Australia. The nearest woodpeckers are actually to be found in Bali. And so tree hollows forming is actually a really slow process, and it happens when a branch breaks off or a lightning strike hits the tree, and that scar enables pathogens like fungi to penetrate the wood and then allow the colonization of termites. It takes a really long time. So this animal here, I think you would all recognize. It's a sulfur-crested cockatoo, and it's standing there in an absolutely massive hollow. Probably not that suitable for breeding because the entrance is so big and wide, and the rain would just come in and fall on the chicks. You could see though that, yeah, that's in a large tree. And another bird that needs a really large hollow is the powerful owl. So the individual pictured here isn't actually the adult. This is a chick. Powerful owls are really aptly named because they are a huge, and look at those talons, they are incredible. They are 60 centimeters in height, so they're Australia's largest owl. And you can see the size of the hollow and the tree that chick is perched on the edge of. And yeah, that would have taken such a long time for that hollow to form, over 300 years for those really, really big hollows. So so the owls need the hollows not just for their own nests so that they can breed each year, but they need hollows in the landscape for their prey. So here we have a common brush-tailed possum and the sugar glider, which is now known as the Crefts glider. And both of these species, like all of the possum and glider species, need hollows to nest in. And they don't just need one hollow for their family. Most of these live in family groups, and sugar gliders in particular, and feathertail gliders will have sometimes 6 to even 12 individuals all crammed into a hollow. They have hollows of different, I guess, qualities dotted over their home range. So they might use different hollows, whether they're just sleeping in them or whether they're breeding, depending on the sex of the animal that we're talking about. They might move hollows if the hollow has parasites, or if it's turned out not to be very good, if predators have been able to access the hollow. And they'll also use different hollows at different times of year, depending on the weather and the aspect of the tree that the hollow, the aspect of the tree that the hollow is in. And you may have heard about apartment blocks. So you'll see that in some large old trees, there are multiple hollows, and you end up with multiple species all living in the same tree. And sometimes even the, you know, when one animal finishes breeding, another lot will move in. And so, yeah, and I think that's also to do with the fact that hollows are in really short supply. If you think in your local area, how many large old trees have fallen over or died in the last 20 years, I know in my area, I've lost hundreds. Either they've come down in paddocks, or we lost them in the storm, or they've been removed for fence removal or for building of houses. And each of those large hollow bearing trees are practically irreplaceable on a small scale. So I've talked a lot about large hollows, but there's also a need for small hollows. So this picture here, this is a sacred kingfisher, which is a migratory species that comes in spring. The last time I've seen them in the Macedon Ranges was when they came down and nested in Bald Hill, which is lovely. You can see there how small the hollow entrance is, how tight it is. This is very important, and this is why in nest boxes the holes are as small as practicable, because you really want just the target animal that you're looking after, that you're attracting to come into the hollow. So one way we can, I guess, assist in the real lack of hollow trees in the landscape is by setting up nest boxes. And Macedon Ranges Shire Council has had a long nest box program that has been largely initiated by William Terry, and there are nest boxes all over. And now we have a dedicated nest box monitoring program in the last couple of years that was set up by the help of ecologists, so that we could make sure we were getting the right kind of data. And who is the star of our nest box monitoring program but this amazing creature, the brush-tailed phascogale. So phascogales, for people who are new to these amazing little critters, they are a carnivorous marsupial. They're related to quolls and to Tasmanian devils, and also to the mouse-sized Antechinus. So they do have a rudimentary pouch, and they are marsupials. They can be identified by that really distinctive black, fluffy, furry tail. You can see there, they've got really big eyes and big ears, and they're nocturnal. And they are a good so-called indicator species. If you have brush-tailed phascogales in the natural environment, that generally means that you have good habitat. You've got enough resources for these animals to persist. So I've got a few facts there. So they, like what I was talking about before with the possums and gliders being in different nest sites. So brush-tailed phascogales can nest in many as 30 different sites, and that over a really large home range. So the males up to 100 hectares, females 20 to 70 hectares. So these animals need large areas of habitat that they're able to cross and be connected, if that makes sense, which is where biolinks come in. So the all of our biodiversity monitoring at the Macedon Ranges is really centered on these key areas which we've identified that are known as biolinks. I think biolink is short for biodiversity link, or you could think of it as life links. It's like, how can we make sure that animals are connected from habitat to habitat? So for an example, if you look at the purple circle there, that's the Cobar biolink, and that area has been subject to some amazing work by Newham Landcare and surrounding landcare groups to make sure that all of that open space between those two areas are actually what's called functionally connected. So it's not just revegetation in these lines that connect up those forested areas. Paddock trees and areas where people have left their fallen woody debris can also act as functional connectivity. Any kind of biodiversity conservation that favors fauna can be regarded as helping perform these links in the landscape. So from the perspective of council, we want to find out how we're going with our goals of protecting species via supporting land care and other restoration activities. And so we have a number of biodiversity monitoring sites that were set up. Those are those black circles, and they're bird monitoring sites as well as the nest box sites. So this is an image of the brush-tailed phascogale records from the Biodiversity Atlas. I apologize, it's a little bit blurry. And you can see that the brush-tailed phascogale records are mainly clustered in the northern part, and I think that's to do with the fact that they like drier, open forest more so than that dense, wetter forest. But if you have a look, there's a lot of records there. You think about the animals having such huge, large home ranges. It's really hard to find those animals, and if you see them spotlighting, you're really, really lucky. So the best way to count brush-tailed phascogales and make sure that they're persisting in the habitat is actually to check the nest boxes. And last year, I believe, was the first time council managed to check all of the nest boxes across the landscape. So we've got, I'll just check my notes. We've got 48 sites for nest boxes, and that's 144 boxes in total. And here we have the results from last year, and you can see there's a really big difference between the different biolink areas. So you can see, first of all, Riddles Hill and Wombat Pyrite. I was hypothesizing maybe being wetter areas, they're not as suitable habitat for the phascogale. And you can see there that Cobar is a really important area, as is the Upper Coliban. Interestingly, when we've been doing spotlighting in the Upper Coliban, both this year and last year, we didn't see hardly any animals at all. And yet they're there because if you look, there's a lot of sugar gliders and a lot of phascogales in the nest boxes. So the nest boxes, our nest box monitoring program is giving us an idea of what animals are where, and also providing habitat if there's not enough hollows in the area. And that's one thing we need to consider. Nest box occupancy is affected by lots of different things, but if there are already a good complement of hollows in the area, then there's less need for the nest boxes, if that makes sense. But I think generally the lack of nest boxes is one of the key factors in all of our local areas. And I imagine that in nearly all cases, if you put nest boxes up, they will be occupied. So yeah, and over time, this is a bit early to tell because we're just a couple of years in, but we want to see if we see an increase in the number, a change in the species distribution. And let's say we have something like large-scale drought or an extensive landscape scale fire, then this data will be really important in tracking the recovery of these important biolink areas. But what about you? This is all about you guys, and you are attending because you've got these habitat kits and you've got your nest boxes. So I want to talk about the nest boxes that you've received today and some installation and maintenance and monitoring notes next. So this photo here, I just love. So I used to work at Connecting Country, and I coordinated a nest box workshop with Miles Geldard, who's there in the black shirt. And there's some nest box workshop participants there. And yes, that's a powerful owl nest box. So I'm really glad that you guys aren't installing one of those. They look huge, and I imagine they are 2 or 3 person job, I think professionals only. So the nest boxes you have are much easier to handle, and definitely make sure you've got someone there with you to assist, just to hold the ladder, and also, yeah, just for safety in case something happens. Place them high, but not too high. I think 3 meters is the recommendation in your habitat kit. Rough bark trees are helpful because then the animals have grip as they're going up to enter. South or southeast orientation is really important because although we've had some cool summers, when we have those really massive heat waves, a south-facing box will be much safer for the animal. Heat stress is a really important problem. Oh yeah, just back with the rough bark trees, yeah, birds and bats, parrots, they don't mind what kind of bark it is. And just a little thing about nest boxes, which was a bit of a light bulb moment for me, you can tell what a nest box is made for, because if the hollow is, if the opening is at the front, usually it's for birds to fly in. If it's on the side, it's for animals to crawl up and then get in. It also keeps them safe from predators. And then for bats, they come in from the bottom or crawl down the nest box and then drop and fly out the bottom. So we're always thinking, what does the animal need? You know, what replicates their natural hollows the best? So nest boxes is not about set and forget. You can't just put them up and never really look at them again. I was involved in a nest box monitoring project for many years at Organ Pipes National Park, and that was monitoring little microbats. And once a month we would go out and we would, it was all under a research permit, and with the scientists we would get the little microbats out of the nest box and put them in little calico bags and take them up to the visitor center, and we'd put gloves on and weigh and measure, and it's called processing the bats, and we get all the data on the bats. But another really important aspect of it was the nest box maintenance. And I'll just go to the next slide. There's a lot of different things that can happen. So they can be occupied by bees, you can end up with ants in them, you can end up with Indian miners or starlings, and also there's just the general wear and tear that comes from being outside and exposed to the elements. So this table was adapted from a fact sheet from Connecting Country. Yeah, I think the main thing to remember is that, yeah, you've just got to check them. You've just got to check them and then take these measures to deal with any of these problems as they come up. I noticed on your sheet that the boxes were made of pine and that possibly they may not last longer than 10 years. If they are painted and repainted regularly, because remember what I said about the hollows, it's when there's when the timber is exposed to the elements, that's when the fungi and other pathogens get in and rot the wood. So a well-painted nest box is actually going to last a lot longer. So yeah, I think it's worth keeping in mind with bees that, yeah, it's probably something that you wouldn't want to try and deal with yourself. And yeah, so just keep those nest boxes maintained. And this is why I often say when people go, why do we put nest boxes all out in the state forest? I'm like, yeah, but you need to actually look after them. You've provided these homes, the animal populations will respond and adapt and change their day-to-day behavior or even their breeding behavior in response to this new resource. And so as custodians, we have a responsibility to make sure that resource is still remains and is ongoing. And that's why maintenance is so important. So what about monitoring? This is the fun bit. So there we have an amazing, gorgeous brush-tailed phascogale saying, you can't see me because I'm underneath my little tail, fluffy tail. So autumn, so this time of year is the best time for checking because this is when the phascogales are out and about. And look, this talk is very much centered on mammals, but also for your parrot box, autumn is a good time to check because the birds will have been finished nesting. You can see there the phascogale is surrounded by what looks like wool and feathers and a few leaves. So that's its nest. And here's a photo of a nest that I took at a past nest box workshop, and you can see there it's a big messy mess of feathers and all sorts of things and wool and little bark fibers. And I believe Jess Lawton, who took the previous photo, even found a pair of underpants in one of her nest boxes, which is pretty funny, I think. Yeah, that was a funny story. But you can see in one corner there's these black shiny things. So those are the scats. So often if you look in your nest box, you might not see a nest and you might just see scats. It's worth getting to know what phascogale scats look like. Basically, they're big and a bit misshapen. They're not uniform in shape and they're a little bit sparkly. You can see that there's that shiny aspect to them. And that's because brush-tailed phascogales are insectivores, and that would have a lot of exoskeleton fragments. And that's also how you can tell bat scats. They have these exoskeleton fragments, a little bit shiny. And yeah, so sometimes you'll just see phascogale or bat scats inside the box. Another kind of nest you might find is this. This is gorgeous sugar gliders or Kreft's gliders. And look, the animals are so cute, but I was really looking for a photo that showed the nest. Sometimes when the nest is new, you can't see the animals, and it's a completely gorgeous round, almost round nest with the eucalyptus leaves arranged in this beautiful geometric pattern. It's in such contrast to the phascogale nests, and you'll see that the leaves are usually fresh, pretty green. They remake the nests. And yeah, that's how you can tell it's a sugar glider. Obviously, if you see the animals, then you're lucky there. But sometimes you do get a confusing situation where you have a brush-tailed phascogale will move in on top of an old nest. And so you can end up with a sugar glider nest with phascogale. And I believe this one, I don't know, I think I can see the remnants of an old sugar glider nest, but yeah, not sure. So just one to keep in mind. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They have such different decor, don't they? So that's kind of focusing on looking in the nest. So nest box checking with a ladder is invasive to the animals and it's risky. The old OH&S considerations. And so there's a couple of other things that you can try. There's, it's a modification, if anyone's heard of a fauna surveying method called stag watching, which is waiting outside of an old dead tree for the animals to come out. This is a similar technique. You wait outside your nest box at sunset, and you wait 15 minutes before and after twilight and see who comes out. It's that simple. And yeah, if you're really quiet, you can be quite close, but if there's more of you, then I think that's 5 meters away. This image is from the Connecting Country Nest Box Guide. And yeah, that's a lovely way to check your nest boxes because it's no harm to the animals. And you get to see the animal acting really natural rather than just looking at you terrified as you lift up the lid. Another non-invasive way and safe way to check your nest boxes is through a pole inspection camera. So this is what it sounds like. It's basically a camera on the end of a pole, and you have the unit down with you here, and then you put with the help of a friend, yeah, you put the camera pole into the nest box entrance, and you can have a look through and see what kind of occupants are there. That's how council does it. It's just the safest way and the least invasive. And I don't think they're too expensive, but we also have one at council that we can provide as well. So you've seen what's in the nest box. Like, what do you do then? So data, oh yeah, this is cute. So I think they're 2 young brush-tailed phascogales. You can put your sightings on iNaturalist. I love iNaturalist, so I use their app, and it's on my phone. Or you can let us know. Conservation on private land is so important. All of our nest boxes are on public land, on roadsides, and private land managers have a huge role to play in conservation of threatened species such as chewins or brush-tailed phascogales and powerful owls. And yeah, it'd be great if you want to let us know, and then we can upload those records to what's called the Biodiversity Atlas, which is the state government repository of data. Yeah, and it's like, the good thing about monitoring when you actually write it down is that you can see clearly when things have changed and in what way, or how many animals here or there. And these things are hard just to keep in your head. And I guess I should add on that nest box occupancy can take a very variable amount of time. Sometimes nest boxes are occupied just straight away, and other times it takes sometimes years, sometimes 5 years for animals to occupy a nest box. So that's the monitoring section. There's other ways to help threatened species, like the brush-tailed phascogale. So re-veg. So you've got your habitat box. This photo here is of Hakea decurrens, or bushy or silky needlewood, in full flower. It's in flower now. I've got some that I planted in my garden that's in flower now, and has the most amazing honey smell, and the very hard fruits are really good for yellowtail black cockatoos. So the habitat boxes have a great range of plants. You can see all the acacias there, really nice mix of local acacias. Acacia melanoxylon is the blackwood. That's a much bigger tree. The others are shrubs. And then the eucalypts obviously are so important for birds and mammals, not only for their bark resource, their flowers, their seeds. They'll eventually form hollows. They're just such an incredible habitat plant. Banksia marginata, the local Banksia, they're really, they used to be all over the landscape. A lot of them were cut down for bakers' ovens, and also during the gold rush. And because of the rabbits all over the countryside, they never really grew back to the same extent. There's Banksias produce those amazing flowers, which are important for honey eaters, but they're also important for the really small possums, like pygmy possums. And I've actually just had a student get in touch with me, but he's doing a PhD on pollination of Banksias by brush-tailed phascogales. And what he's doing is, when he finds a dead phascogale, he actually swabs the jaw for pollen and then analyzes it. And he's been finding that, yeah, possibly the brush-tailed phascogale is important in pollination in the landscape. This talk, I don't have time to talk about planting or how to plant or where to plant or anything, but the main thing is that it's you can get in touch with your local land care group for advice, or find out from your neighbours who've planted native plants. I would plant them in kind of like clumps rather than rows. That's better for bushfires and also better for habitat. Yeah, and good luck and enjoy. Oh, and also this is the best time of year to plant, in autumn, winter. Another way to help is the Kim principle, which is keep it messy, mate. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but it's like, don't clean up too much. Like, clean up for fire directly around your house within 10 meters, but the rest of it, leave it alone. So this is my dear departed dog's leg, Leela, and just showing the size of the fungi there. So this is woody debris, leaf litter, branches, stuff like that. And in summer, they look really dry and dangerous, and you might think you need to get rid of it. But as soon as autumn comes, look at that fungi just coming up. It's absolutely fantastic. The leaf litter provides habitat for the invertebrates that the brush-tailed phascogale eats. So many fungi that are essential to our habitats need leaf litter. It's a really important resource. Another way to help is to control your pets. So even adorable little dogs, this is my dog when she was younger, Valley, even adorable little dogs and dogs that don't actually bite and eat the animals are not great. They need to, you just can't have your dog outside and not monitored. It's important to, I guess, yeah, because brush-tailed phascogales are really vulnerable to dog and cat attack. I've got a website there, safecat.org.au. I love this. This is a really great initiative protecting cats and wildlife. And so it has all these tips for cat owners. My mum has 2 cats that are inside, and then they've just got an outside area, and they're really happy. And yeah, anyway, so there's lots and lots of tips there. And that will help your phascogales and other wildlife that come to your property as a result of the great re-veg and nest boxes that you have provided. So that's my last slide. So I'm going to end it there, and I guess I will be zooming in a moment to answer any questions should, yeah, hopefully the tech will work. Thank you.